Hi, my dear learners. Welcome to the world of literature. Welcome to the world of education. Let's start learning. Let's start exploring. All right, this is Cbse, and today we are going to start with Dust of Snow, written by Robert Frost. Right? When we talk about dust of snow, you can remember when we talk about frost or when we talk about snow, right? We are talking about the winter season, right? So in a similar fashion, you can remember who is the poet? The poet being Robert Frost, right? The poet being Robert Frost. Yeah. All right. So now I would like to start off with the introduction, right? First and foremost, we would be doing the introduction part, the introduction portion. So Dust of Snow is a short poem consisting of just two stanzas. In poem, what we have? We tend to have stanzas. Clear? Is that right? Is that clear? All right. So, however, the poem has got the beauty of a miniature painting. However, when we talk about the poem, it has got that beauty, which has been it has got it is picturesque in nature. It has got that beauty, which is like a miniature painting in itself, right? So, in the fewest possible words, the poet has given the details of the entire landscape. So in very few words, the poet has tried to capture the main essence of the poem, right? Now, in so a snow-laden hemlock tree with a crow flying out of it, scattering the soft snow all over the poet, passing by under the tree, making a perfect, balanced, and complete winter landscape. Here, now we are going to have a look at the summary. Dejected and depressed, right? Because whenever we tend to talk about the cold weather, or when we talk about the winter season, or we tend to talk about crows, it's basically associated with negativity, right? With negative connotations, or even for that matter, winter season. It is when we talk about spring season, we talk about happiness, we talk about elation. But when we talk about winter, we talk about sorrow, we talk about sadness, right? And we usually associated it with that, right? So dejected and depressed, in a very sullen and melancholic mood, the poet had spent a part of his day. So he had spent a part of his day, not the entire day, but a part of his day, feeling absolutely out of sorts and spirits when unexpectedly a seemingly small occurrence lifted the weight off his mind and made him experience a joyous mood, right? So when unexpected, it was an unexpected event, a small unexpected event, you know, seemingly small, uh, uh, having a small occurrence, which lifted the weight of his mind, right? And made him experience a joyous mood, right? So suddenly, from being depressed or being in a you know in being depressed or being melancholic, from that state, from being sad to being in a state of joy, was something that we need to notice, right? Now, the poet describes how when he was passing by under a snow-laden hemlock tree, a crow perched on its shook some flakes of snow which fell on him. This little incident brought about a big and positive change. So this little event brought about a positive change, right? In his mood. The sudden contact with nature set it in a sense of joy, right? In the in the poet, and made all his melancholy disappear. So this little incident brought about a big and positive change in his mood, the sudden contact with nature. When you connect with nature, when you establish that contact, it set it in a strong sense of joy in the poet and made all his melancholy disappear, right? Shumantar, right? So the small, now we are gonna have a look at the theme, right? Now the small poem, it appears to be small in nature, but it has a deep meaning attached to it, right? Now, this small poem, Dust of Snow, in based is based on the idea that nature is perennial source of joy. The poet reveals that that contact with nature provides uh, a healing touch and relieves us of depression, sadness, and gloom. Even those objects of nature which we tend to treat as having negative, inauspicious associations can be effective in dispelling the gloom in a person's mind. Therefore, the poem contains the idea that nothing in nature is ugly, inauspicious, or unpleasant. Even a crow, a handful dust of snow, right, and a poisonous tree like hemlock can be instrumental in turning melancholy into cheerfulness, right? The poem thus emphasizes that sometimes seemingly insignificant events can bring about a significant change. So sometimes we tend to think that these events are insignificant, but they can bring about a significant change in in an individual, right? Now we are going to have a look at the title, right? Dust is something that is, dust is something that is modest, unassuming, and humble. Yet the poet has chosen to call the poem Dust of Snow, right? In order to bring home the idea that it is not only glamour, grandeur, and splendor of nature that fascinate the human mind. Even its most humble, ordinary, and simple aspects, like a handful of snow, have the capacity to deeply impact us. As the poem narrates how a handful of fine particles of snow falling on the poet swept away all his melancholy and replaced it with joy and hope, right? The title is appropriate and therefore the title is appropriate and well chosen. Here, now we move on to the message part, right? The poem conveys the message that nature has a has a romance about it, which can transform our mood. So it has got that romantic nature. We're not talking about that romance. We are talking about the romantic nature. We're talking about the romantic period, right? Right? Wherein we worshipped nature, wherein we loved nature, right? Wherein we care about nature, right? So the poem conveys the message that nature has a romance about it, which can transform our mood and take away all the gloom from our spirits. Nature treats every creature and object impartially, right? Everyone and everything in nature has the power to impact the minds of human beings. Snow spreads itself all over evenly, and it can make even in an inauspicious crow and a poisonous tree like hemlock it's instrumental to set in a joyous mood, right? In a joyous mood, in a person burdened with tensions, sorrows. So it can even make an inauspicious crow and a poisonous tree like hemlock, its instrument to set in a joyous mood, right? In a person burdened with tensions and sorrows, right? The poem conveys another message that we should never lose hope and optimism and never let gloom empower us, right? Empower us or our minds, right? Joys and sorrows are inevitable, right? Joys and sorrows are inevitable. Therefore, we must adopt an optimistic attitude and approach towards life, right? Now we move on to the literary devices. All right. So, alliteration is the occurrence of the same sound of the is the occurrence of the same sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. It creates a musical effect and enhances the pleasure of reading a literary piece of work. Right? Here now, for example, has given my heart. Here, H sound has been repeated. Right? Has given my heart. Has and heart. H. Repetition of the consonant sounds, right? And saved some part. Saved some. Repetition of the S sound, right? Of the consonant sound. Enjambment as a literary device refers to the practice of running lines from one to the next without using any kind of punctuation marks to indicate a pause or full stop or commas. This poem is an excellent example of enjambment. Each of its lines runs onto the next, right? Without any punctuation mark, right? And the thought ends with the last line. The full stop comes only at the end. Clear? Symbolism. We get to see a lot of symbolism in this poem, right? So, symbolism is the use of symbols to signify ideas and qualities by giving them symbolic meanings that are different from their literal sense. Generally, it is an object representing another to give an entirely different meaning that is much deeper and more significant. The poet has used three symbols: a crow, a hemlock, and a tree, a dust of snow. All the three symbols are conventionally associated with sorrow. A crow is considered ugly and inauspicious, which portends ill fortune. A hemlock tree is poisonous, right? And therefore has direct association with death. And the sorrow represents hardships. The poet has associated these negative symbols with his dark, depressed, and gloomy mood. However, he makes these symbols instrumental in bringing about a deep, positive change in his mood. The crow, while fluttering away from the hemlock tree, makes some snow fall on the poet passing by. The contact with the nature dispels the gloom of despair and sets in a positive and joyous mood. The negative associations of the three symbols are in this way replaced by the positive connotations. Then we have imagery. Imagery in poetry refers to the mental pictures or images which are evoked in the minds of the readers, right? Here, through words in a literary work, imagery makes a poem graphic, poem or a poem graphic and more appealing, right? The small poem, Dust of Snow, is full of visual imagery of the winter landscape. It presents the landscape of the forest with snow-covered trees, a crow perched on the hemlock tree, and a lonely traveler, the poet himself passing by. The imagery corresponds with the mental state of the poet. Rhyming scheme. Each of the two stanzas in the poem, Dust of Snow, follow the same rhyme scheme. That is AB, AB. Now, stanzas for comprehension. The way a crow, now let me just share this. Okay. Wait, all right, I'll just read it out. So the way a crow shook down on me the dust of snow from a hemlock tree. In this stanza, the poet narrates his contact with nature in the form of the snowflakes falling on him from a tree, right? The poet was passing from near a hemlock tree when a crow perched on the tree, moved, and in the process the made the flecks of snow. Uh, However, it is significant that while presenting a sight of nature, the poet has chosen a poisonous tree, right? Like hemlock, instead of traditionally chosen trees like oaks, maples, and pines, right? And similarly, he has chosen a crow instead of a nightingale or a cuckoo. Cuckoo FM, you might have heard about it, right? Cuckoo, right? So the season presented is not spring or summer, but snowy winter season. And as I have mentioned earlier, that season also that has been presented in the poem is not of that of a summer or of a spring. It is we are talking about the winter season. The crow, the snow, and the hemlock tree represent the world of nature. All the three symbols are associated with the harsh aspects of nature and symbolize death. The crowing of a crow is regarded as a bad omen, and the hemlock tree, being poisonous, stands for death. Similarly, snow symbolizes bareness and lack of life. The poet uses the symbols to emphasize his sad and depressed mood. Similarly, snow symbolizes bareness and lack of life. Herein, we are talking about bareness or lack of life, but for the poet, it worked out to be something different, right? Snow had the Snow had enlivened and had basically had instilled that quality wherein he could feel the sense of achievement, wherein he could come out of the state of sorrowness or the agony or the pain or the suffering or the depression that he was in, right? Yeah. Then in the second stanza, has given my heart a change of mood and saved some part of a day I had viewed. In this stanza, the poet reveals that contact with nature is highly effective in soothing the sad, sorrowful mind of a person. When the particles of snow, you know, fell on the poet when he was passing by a near hemlock tree, his mood was uh, drastically transformed. He had been in a gloomy and foul mood throughout the day. He had felt bad that sorrow. He he felt bad that sorrow, right, had spoiled a major part of the day. But as he came in the in the not leap, as he came in the lap of nature, he could spend the rest of his day with happy spirits. Even snow can bring about a complete change in the mood of a person. The poet has employed unusual imagery and symbols here. The crow usually is considered to be a harsh bird, and the snow represents difficulties of life. Similarly, the hemlock tree is venomous, right? But the poet transforms all the three into effective, pleasant symbols of pleasure giving objects of nature, which have the power to uplift the dropping spirits of a person, right? Yeah. So with this, we come to the end of this poem. I had to do it quickly, so I have just given it one shot. And if you have any doubts and queries, I'll be taking that in the next lecture, in the next series. For now, this is Sukriti Joshi signing off. Till then, we'll keep learning and keep growing, right? Stay tuned until then. This is Sukriti Joshi signing off. Bye bye.